Chagos crisis. UK faces backlash as Trump prepares to intervene. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is facing significant criticism following his decision to transfer sovereignty of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, a move that has sparked backlash from domestic and international critics alike. The controversial agreement has drawn attention due to the United States' military presence in the region and the potential geopolitical implications of the transfer. Now, with former President Donald Trump set to return to the White House as the next U.S. president, there are growing calls for him to intervene and block the deal. Background on the Chagos Islands dispute. The Chagos Islands, a remote archipelago in the Indian Ocean, have long been the subject of a sovereignty dispute between the United Kingdom and Mauritius. In the late 1960s, the UK forcibly removed the indigenous Chagosian population to facilitate the establishment of a joint UK-US military base on Diego Garcia, the largest island in the archipelago. While the base remains a key strategic asset for American military operations, the forced displacement of the Chagosians has been widely condemned as a violation of human rights. In recent years, Mauritius has intensified its claims to the islands, citing international legal rulings that call for the UK to decolonize the territory. Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government recently announced an agreement to transfer sovereignty to Mauritius, positioning it as a step towards addressing historical injustices and complying with international law. Criticism from Chagosian advocates. Vanessa Kalu, co-head of the British Indian Ocean Territory, BIOT, Citizens Platform, has emerged as a prominent critic of the sovereignty transfer. She has labeled the agreement as a sneaky deal, arguing that the indigenous Chagosian community was not adequately consulted. Kalu and other activists insist that the islands should remain under British control, asserting that In a recent statement, Kalu called on U.S. President-elect Donald Trump to halt the agreement, citing his previous track record of challenging international deals he perceives as detrimental to American or allied interests. The Chagos Islands have been a strategic asset for decades, she said. Their fate should not be decided without the input of all stakeholders, including the Chagosian people and the United States. Donald Trump's potential role. The United States plays a critical role in the Chagos Islands dispute due to its military base on Diego Garcia. The base is considered a cornerstone of U.S. strategic operations in the Indian Ocean and has been used for missions in the Middle East and South Asia. The current Biden administration has supported the UK's decision to transfer sovereignty, but critics of the move are hopeful that President-elect Trump will adopt a different stance. Trump has a history of taking bold, unconventional actions in foreign policy, often reversing decisions made by his predecessors. Advocates like Kalu believe Trump could intervene to prevent the transfer, citing his emphasis on strengthening U.S. strategic interests and his skepticism of international agreements that may weaken allied positions. Geopolitical implications. The sovereignty transfer raises complex questions about the UK's standing in global politics and its relationship with the United States. Critics argue that the move risks alienating the US at a time when the UK is seeking to deepen transatlantic ties post-Brexit. Furthermore, it signals a shift in the UK's approach to its overseas territories, which could set a precedent for other disputes, such as the Falkland Islands and Gibraltar. For Mauritius, the agreement represents a major victory in its decades-long campaign to reclaim the Chagos Islands. However, the transfer could also lead to challenges in maintaining security and stability in the region, particularly if the US military base's future is called. To fully understand the gravity of the Chagos Islands sovereignty dispute, one must revisit its colonial history. In the 1960s, under pressure from the United States, the UK detached the Chagos Islands from Mauritius before granting the latter independence in 1968. This action created the British Indian Ocean Territory, BIOT, to facilitate the establishment of a U.S. military base on Diego Garcia. The creation of the BIOT came at a steep human cost. Between 1968 and 1973, nearly 2,000 Chagosians were forcibly removed from their homeland and resettled in Mauritius and the Seychelles, often under dire conditions. This expulsion remains one of the darkest chapters in British colonial history, with affected families struggling for decades to secure recognition and compensation, despite multiple legal battles, including rulings from the International Court of Justice, ICJ, and the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, affirming Mauritius' claim to the islands. The UK has resisted relinquishing control. Critics argue that the UK's defiance of international law damages its credibility and undermines its commitments to decolonization. The US military base on Diego Garcia is pivotal for American power projection in the Indian Ocean region. It serves as a critical logistics hub for operations in the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. The base has also been used for intelligence gathering, surveillance, and even controversial activities, such as hosting detainees during the War on Terror. For decades, the US has relied on the UK's sovereignty over the Chagos Islands to maintain stability and operational freedom in the region. The potential transfer of sovereignty to Mauritius introduces uncertainties about the base's future. While Mauritius has expressed willingness to allow the base to continue operating, any disruption to the current arrangements could have significant implications for US strategic planning. Donald Trump's potential intervention reflects these concerns. His administration previously took a hardline stance on preserving U.S. military advantages, often at the expense of international norms. Trump's return to power could see a renewed focus on safeguarding Diego Garcia, even if it means pressuring the UK and Mauritius to reconsider the transfer agreement. One of the most poignant aspects of the Chagos Islands dispute is the plight of the Chagosian people. Displaced for over 5 decades, many Chagosians have struggled to rebuild their lives in Mauritius, the Seychelles, and even the UK. While some have been granted British citizenship, others remain marginalized and disenfranchised. Activists like Vanessa Kalu argue that the sovereignty transfer does little to address the root injustices faced by the Chagosian community. They contend that any decision regarding the island's future must prioritize the rights and aspirations of their original inhabitants. For many Chagosians, the ideal outcome is a return to their ancestral homeland under British governance, which they believe offers greater stability and security. The UK government has pledged financial compensation and support for resettlement efforts, but critics argue that these measures fall short of genuine restitution. The decision to proceed with the transfer without extensive consultation with the Chagosian diaspora has fueled accusations of betrayal and neglect. Keir Starmer's diplomatic gamble. For Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the Chagos Islands agreement represents a high-stakes gamble. On one hand, the deal allows the UK to demonstrate compliance with international legal obligations and improve its post-colonial reputation. On the other hand, it risks alienating key allies like the United States and deepening divisions at home. Starmer's decision has already drawn fire from political opponents who accuse him of undermining British sovereignty. Critics within his own party argue that the move reflects poor judgment, particularly at a time when the UK is navigating complex geopolitical challenges post-Brexit. The backlash threatens to weaken Starmer's position as he seeks to solidify his leadership and steer the UK through turbulent times. International repercussions. The transfer of sovereignty also has implications beyond the UK and Mauritius. It sets a precedent for other territorial disputes involving former colonial powers. Spain, for instance, is closely watching the situation, as it continues to press its claim to Gibraltar. Similarly, Argentina may see the move as an opportunity to renew its demands for the Falkland Islands. Moreover, the Chagos Islands issue highlights the broader challenges of balancing historical accountability with contemporary strategic realities. For the UK, the decision reflects an attempt to reconcile its colonial past with its modern role on the global stage. However, the complexities of the case underscore the difficulties of achieving justice in a way that satisfies all stakeholders. As the world awaits Donald Trump's return to the presidency, the future of the Chagos Islands remains uncertain. Trump's intervention could upend the carefully negotiated agreement, forcing the UK and Mauritius to revisit the terms of the transfer. It could also deepen tensions between the UK and the United States, complicating efforts to maintain a strong bilateral relationship. For the Chagosian people, the struggle for justice continues. Their voices remain central to the debate, reminding the world that sovereignty disputes are not just about borders and resources but also about the lives and aspirations of those who call these territories home. Prime Minister Keir Starmer must now navigate a minefield of domestic and international challenges, balancing the demands of justice, diplomacy, and national security. The outcome of this controversy will not only shape his legacy but also read. The Chagos Islands sovereignty transfer is shaping up to be a defining moment for Keir Starmer's premiership. While he seeks to position the move as a step toward justice and reconciliation, the backlash from Chagosian advocates, coupled with the looming prospect of U.S. intervention under Donald Trump, underscores the complexity of the situation. As the UK navigates this contentious issue, the ultimate outcome will likely have far-reaching implications for its global reputation and its relationship with key allies.